What's going on, guys? Seth and Chevy here. We just watched the first episode of the brand new Trigun Stampede. This is a remake, so from what I hear, of the original manga that the original show was based off of. Apparently, it's a little closer or more closer to the source material. I don't have any background with it. I watched Trigun when I was a kid, a little bit, never finished it, never could really get into it, in case you're curious about where I come from when it comes to the original anime, and never read the manga. So this is all pretty fresh to me, although I do recognize some things from the original because I had a lot of anime friends back in the day who loved Trigun. So
True.
very interesting. A couple things I want to throw out there too is this is done by Studio Orange. I don't know their work, but I've heard some good things. And they are doing this anime in 3D, which I know is controversial to a lot of people.
True.
And we'll talk about the 3D. And also, there's one other thing I wanted to throw out there, and I can't remember. But yeah, what happened in this episode, Chevy?
Yeah, so starts off with us in space, slowly panning in some spaceships, and we get effectively a backstory on Vash and his brother as they are doing their daily routine, and then that immediately turns into disasters. The ship starts to explode. Doesn't look like an attack from the outside, so as Vash is trying to escape and look for the people who seem to be awake with him, because it looks like people are in like a cryo sleep of some sort. They call out to him. They find him. They run to an escape pod, and I believe his brother's name is Nia. I can't remember exactly what the guy's name was. So
First episode, we'll learn him.
yeah, it'll take a bit. And Rem, and they get to an escape pod where Rem stays behind while they get launched to safety. We fast forward to present day. We're now introduced to two reporters, Meryl, and I can't remember the older guy's name, but he's her senior, and they're basically looking for a scoop on the Stampede.
The human typhoon.
Oh, Typhoon, that's right. That's right. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And we kind of get some shots as they're driving through the desert, as it kind of shows the world.
Very bleak and sandy.
Yeah. Giant sandworm bug type thing jumps in the background, eats some birds, which was kind of an interesting scene.
Mm-hmm.
They run out of energy because the vehicle's battery operated, and they come across what seem to be corpses, but one of them is not, and they are introduced to a lively gentleman in a red coat, who we soon find out from some military folks, I assume they're military, that he is in fact Vash the Stampede, and he has a $6 million bounty on his head.
Yeah, military are at the very least bounty hunters, because he's got this bounty on his head. They're looking for him. The reporters lead them away because they want the scoop on the story of the human typhoon. Because it seems at first they're gonna rat him out, and, say where he is, but they make it clear that they want to know whether he's innocent or guilty, because that's the job of journalists, essentially.
Yeah, they want the scoop. They don't really have a I guess dog in this fight. I don't know.
Bias, yeah.
Yeah. Anyways, they end up going to a town to eat and drink and whatnot. Also to hopefully interview Vash. We get there. I'm kind of going through this quickly just to get through it, but
hopefully anybody watching this has watched the episode.
Yeah,
Otherwise, this is full spoiler territory.
They find out, they know Vash. So they also that the water is not any good to drink. It's very dirty. They ask Vash to fix it. They go to the location.
It's worth noting too, when they first get there, that they're going to this diner, and without the reporters knowing, everybody in the town knows Vash because he saved the town before, which is kind of revealing for them when they're thinking this guy might be this mass murdering guy that has a bounty on his head, and the whole town seems to like him a lot. And he also easily gets out of his ropes that they had him tied up in.
It was super smooth.
Which was funny because they're like, well, why are you tied up? The people in the town are like, well, why are you tied up if these are your friends? And he's like, what ropes? He's like, is out of them all of a sudden.
Right,
So it
right.
shows he was never really in danger of being held by these guys. He was just letting them take him
Right.
with the rope, which is, a point to his character.
Yeah, for sure. They get to the water treatment plant, and they kind of explain that it's old tech from when they were starfaring, which implies, I believe, and I haven't seen the show, so this is just guessing, obviously, but that a lot of those pods that landed did survive, and there's just a civilization from that. Vash notices one of the pods is red and kind of has a gloom and doom look, but we never really get an explanation why. So hopefully, we get that in the future. The bounty hunter / military / police, whatever they are, show up to claim the bounty, or at the very least take Vash with them. And Vash, for the second time, I think, third time in the show, is like, I don't want any violence. I don't want any violence.
It's very much a pacifist.
Yeah. The reporter suggests a duel, or else he's going to write a report on how the military commander is a coward. So he agrees to it. They start the duel, and he decides to play dirty and use, I can't remember what it's called now. It's like a missile cluster.
It's like a cluster bomb. He shot with a missile launcher.
There we go. Cluster bomb. That's the word.
After Vash said that essentially he said it was stupid, he doesn't want to duel.
Yeah.
Guy throws his gun at him and then pulls out a missile launcher, shoots a cluster bomb into the air. It's going to blow up everything in the area.
Vash, in very fancy drawing animation, goes to shoot at the clusters and is out of ammo. So starts screaming for a bullet. The bar owner has a single bullet, hands it to Meryl, and Meryl runs up and throws it to Vash, in which he goes to catch it. It gets shot out of the air by the guy he's supposed to be dueling. He chases it down. The guy goes to shoot him after he loads the bullet, and he dodges it like he's freaking Neo.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy looking.
Grabs a chunk of rock out of the ground, throws it up in the air, shoots it, it scatters and blows up all the bombs. And then we are given a tiny bit of backstory as they're leaving, that his brother is alive. We get a flashback of his brother kind of laughing as they were children. Essentially that he had sabotaged all the ships but made sure the vital stuff would survive, and calls Vash an accomplice in all this. And then we get credits. So, impressions.
So yeah, like I said before, I don't have a big love for Trigun, but I kind of respect its legacy in the sense that, like, early 90s anime, it was a big deal for a lot of anime nerds, the few of us back then compared to nowadays. And so
True.
There's kind of a reverence to the series. And so getting a remake, I wish I could be on the train of going like, oh, dude, finally, we're getting Trigun again, blah, blah, blah. I was never that guy, but watching this, I actually liked it. It's only the first episode, but I think it's a really good first episode. The first thing I want to talk about is Studio Orange's use of 3D. I think this is some of the best 3D I've seen in an anime. It's got a cinema movie-like quality to it. It doesn't do that frame skipping thing as much as some other ones do. Sometimes, like in certain scenes where people are barely doing anything, in anime, the CG will look kind of stuttery, or like when a big shot is moving across a lot of moving objects, it'll look almost like it's lagging. It's really weird. I've seen in a lot of different animes that use 3D like this constantly, and this really didn't have that. And in the moments where action was happening, it was really good looking, really smooth. They definitely, just like in animation, are prioritizing certain scenes for better animation. And when it called for it, they did a really good job with it. So when it comes to the 3D, it didn't hinder my experience at all. I think they did a really good job. I think it looks good. The facial animations are very anime-like, which I like. It's not just 3D models talking like you see in a lot of things. Like, this actually has an anime quality to the facial movements, which I really like. Looked really good, gave a lot of personality to the characters. They didn't look like they were just kind of like blankly staring at each other and blinking. But the mocap, I'm assuming it looks like mocap. A lot of it looks like people, like real people moving. Otherwise, I don't know. But is really good, especially in the action sequences when Vash was like CQCing that dude who he was dueling. when, moments where he's pulling the gun out, the big reveal, because any fan of the manga or the series is gonna, recognize all the stuff, and it's like a big deal. He's pulling the gun out. Even the scene where he was chasing the bullet was like buttery smooth. I was like watching the way he was running, and it looked really fucking good. So when it comes to 3D, I think it's it was really well done, especially just for anime. Some of the best I've seen. And the story's interesting so far. Like I said, I've watched the original, but some of it, but I don't really remember a whole lot from it. So I do remember him being kind of a pacifist, so it kind of makes sense in this. He's doing the same thing. He's kind of one of those reluctant characters that, when push comes to shove and things are happening, he's got to save people, then he'll do what's right. But before that, he tries to avoid, combat at all costs. So that's definitely carrying over to this. But other than that, like on the backstory, I don't know much about that. So the whole him with his brother escaping the ship was a really big way to start the episode off. Definitely interesting, compelling. The build-up of the reporters getting to Vash and finding him and talking with him was fun. The whole scene with the bar and kind of getting some backstory on Vash being like a good dude, even though there's a story that's kind of like he's this horrible maniac who kills people, and even in his picture shows him looking like maniacal.
Yeah, on paper for sure.
Yeah, is an interesting contrast, and obviously the town people seem to like him quite a bit. So, that's a fun, interesting story moving forward. Also, I like the kind of Western vibe that the series in general has, but in this definitely is a really cool, refreshing visual style that I like, even though I hate deserts and anything, and just seeing a bunch of sand, I'm just like, oh god. But it's cool. The pretty much the big scene of this where they go to the power plant, and then he gets arrested and they're beating the shit out of him, and the duel happens, was a lot of fun. I think the action in that, even though it's mostly him trying to avoid any kind of action, was a lot of fun, looked great. Really creative on how he threw the rock in the air, shot it so it kind of like dispersed and hit multiple objects with one bullet. Gave him the hero quality that you want from him, because obviously he doesn't want to fight anybody, but he wants to save people. How's he going to do it with one bullet? I think it's interesting too how he was almost borderline pathetic when he was trying to get a bullet. He was like, had like snot, and like he was like crying, freaking out, trying to get someone to throw him a 22 caliber bullet. Because apparently he was just unprepared. But if you're a dude who's just walking around not wanting to fight people, it kind of makes sense you wouldn't have a bullet on you, but also you have a gun. So, but that was a fun scene with really great animation, and good problem solving the way they did it. It was a lot of fun. And the outro kind of just gives us a little more taste of what's to come, what to uncover and find out more about. We also got that end with the guy in the robe playing the piano, which I assume is his brother.
I assume the same.
That was a cool scene. And then just for fun, the outro sequence visually was okay. The song was okay. Wasn't bad, wasn't amazing. And we didn't get an intro because it's the first episode, but I'm sure we will get one next episode in which we will talk about it then. But overall, pretty good episode. I definitely want to watch episode 2, see where this goes. So, and just in case you're curious, we are going to be watching this and the Nier anime and figuring out if we want to continue one or both of them moving forward for the show. So this is definitely a show I would be open to continuing.
All right. I agree with a lot of what you said. The biggest thought I had was, it's a 3D anime, and I've seen how anime, handles 3D, sometimes good, usually not. You see good blending here and there, but this is just a full blown 3D, anime. So, that being said, I had heard that Orange did a good job. I'm curious to see what else they've done, because I don't know enough about them. And like you, I watched like some miscellaneous episodes of Trigun when I was younger, but I didn't like watch the series, so I don't have any like attachment to it outside of just like recognizing it. So that being said, I think the intro did a really good job of immediately getting you interested in the show. Also, the music in the beginning scene was really good.
Really good, yeah.
So I really appreciate that. I actually think the whole episode had really good music. Even when they were like having the duel, it had like this Western song going, and it was just like really cool. It had a good vibe to it, a little modern take on a Western style song, but it was it fit really well, I think.
Yeah, the soundtrack has a good like big and epic sound to it, which is cool because like not a whole lot happened in the story outside of the things that it kind of alludes to in the past, but that was one of the cinematic qualities to even the visual style was the soundtrack that went with it. It made it feel like a big thing, big deal. So yeah, I like the music too.
Yeah, I don't usually notice music in a lot of things, and in the intro scene, I was very drawn to it very immediately. So they did a good job with that for sure. I also, with them running through the hallway, and then just the subtle animations of like being put in the pod and stuff like that, I was like, the 3D is really good. I think I'm sold on this. So they did a good job early on, kind of squashing those fears too.
Yeah, to make it clear, like for me personally, I had zero qualms with the 3D.
Same.
I liked it.
It looked good. I'm sold. So, I again, it makes me want to kind of check out what else they've done too, because I kind of like the visual style of it. Knowing what I'm getting into. I don't like when it's kind of like thrown at me. So, other than that, like from the title screen and through the desert sequence with the reporters, it was very like cinematic feeling. Lots of like just shots of like the cars at the bottom driving along the sand with these two giant like satellites in the sky. Really, really cool scenes. I like that a lot. Starting to notice that a lot in anime, to be honest. They're doing a lot of very cinema style stuff, which is great to see. Love all the voice actors so far. They fit very well. I also love that the guy who plays Vash is just like really good at like coming off goofy without being annoying. I like that a lot.
That's huge because back in the 90s, let's go back there for a second. A lot of the characters of this archetype were annoying. They'd always have like high pitched voices. They'd always be like really like, wah, 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 just like going nuts, and then like they'd get really serious at certain parts, which is still a thing nowadays. But I feel like that archetype's been kind of smoothed out better. It's less annoying, I guess.
Well, there's just so many more people voice acting now too.
Well, and that's the thing too. Is like voice acting's just gotten better. There's more validity to it that it attracts not only just people who are interested in maybe doing some voice for some cartoons, like back in the day, that was kind of the mentality, but like actors, people who want to act just with their voice.
Yeah. There's a lot of people want to do that now.
And with the success of like video games and anime being as big as they are, the biggest things ever right now, there's a lot of pull and a lot more opportunities, a lot more animes, a lot more video games. There's just a bigger ecosystem of voice actors, and with that, you're going to get better performances across the board.
Yeah, no, I agree. And so with that, I think Vash sounded great.
Yeah.
So
what do you think of the way he looks?
He looks great, actually. I know. At first it was a little jarring because obviously it's different, but after seeing it like in complete motion and seeing the mannerisms and stuff, I like it a lot.
Yeah, for a second there, when I saw the trailer, when you showed me it, it looked newer, and the way they changed him up, I'm like, it makes sense because they're trying to modernize it, but he looks pretty different, but at the same time has like the same theming. He has the red coat, he has the blonde hair. The hair's different, but it's not too crazy, and he still has the sunglasses.
Yeah, he just has a much younger and like rounder face now.
Yeah, he does look younger. He looks less, I guess, angular. But at first I was thinking it was like Devil May Cry, the original games. Then when they made DMC, the remake, the character was like very modern, like a little too far. In this, I thought they're going to do the same thing, but hearing the voice acting and the animation to the character completely quelled that for me, because he can come off like they're trying to like overly modernize him and make him too young. He seemed like exactly the type of character you want him to be. He just is, slightly different looking. So, I guess the performance really was going to be the deciding factor on whether I liked the new look or not. And I think the performance was good. So the new look, I'm okay with. now. It's really weird that that was the deciding factor for me.
I mean, I think that's fair though. You kind of, when you look at someone, you have an expectation of like kind of what they're going to sound like, and it's a little jarring when you get like some like big dude with like a high pitched voice, for example. So
Sure.
so I think it does fit really well together. Yeah. Even with like the two reporters, I think their voices are really good too. We haven't really spent a lot of time with them, and I have even less knowledge of these two characters, so we'll see obviously where that goes. The story so far has been decent. I like it. It does have me interested to watch more for sure. I was gonna watch it regardless, but I am glad that I have like some interest now going into it, because I honestly, the only interest I had was just that I knew it was a remake, and
yeah, it was it for me. I was like, let's see what this is like.
So yeah, I like the style. Like you said, the kind of like Western slash almost steampunky like kind of thing going on. I like a lot. It looks really good. They're really good at doing like capturing atmosphere. That does, come with like the scene choices and music and whatnot. And then the animation, when is needed, like you said, really it shows off pretty well. The part where he was being Neo for a second, I was just like, holy crap. And even when he escaped from the ropes, that was so buttery smooth how he got out of the ropes, that you would think that was like a person. So yeah. It was
Well, just like the CQC scene where he took the guy down, like it looked like two people.
Yeah, for
doing
sure.
it. It looked really good. It looked like super choreographed, and is that scene and the scene where he's chasing after the bullet that like it all stood out to me. But like those scenes really stood out to me because like I was watching the frames, watching like if it was like a repeating animation or not, like just stuff like that, and I was impressed with how well done it was.
For sure. I think one advantage too of them doing 3D is panning is probably a lot easier in 3D than it is in 2D.
Probably.
Because you can just move a camera.
In a 3D space, yeah.
So I think that'll be interesting going forward if they utilize it well. I am curious to see. I don't know. Like I said, I don't know anything about the show, so I don't know what kind of fights he's going to get into later. But I assume, like most shows, there will be some build up to some pretty crazy moments, and I'm looking forward to seeing what those look like in 3D with what I've seen in this episode, because I'm pretty sold. So I had a good time.
Yeah.
And the outro, I agree. It was okay. The music was okay. The visuals were okay. I probably wouldn't buy the song though. So
yeah, overall liked it. Definitely interested in watching episode 2, so that's good. And yeah, this is part of the new season of anime that started though. So there's
Winter
a bunch
just started. Yep.
Yeah, new year, new season of anime. We're watching some of them. You're watching all of them. I think.
I'm not.
You're watching a lot of them.
I'm watching some continuations from last season and these two that we're watching.
Okay.
So I'm taking it easy this season.
And yeah, I will continue watching this unless it kind of falls off. But we're going to also watch Nier. So stay tuned for that. We'll have an episode of the first episode up as well. And yeah, anything else you want to say?
No. Happy New Year, guys.
Happy New Year, guys. And let us know in the comments what you guys think of this first episode of Trigun Stampede. Did you like it? Did you not like it? If you watched the original anime or read the manga, what do you think about it in comparison? Please no spoilers, though, as neither of us have watched all the way through Trigun or read the manga. So surprisingly, we're kind of going into this pretty blind, even though we recognize some of the characters. But yeah, let us know, vaguely what you thought of the episode and what you think of the comparison of the other properties compared to this one. But that's going to do it for this review of episode 1. I've been Seth, this has been Chevy. Stay tuned for the Nier episode. Until then, we'll talk to you guys later.